Hey everyone, Sean here from Tangency Designs. As you can see, I wanted to show you all some things about an acoustic guitar and specifically what's going on inside it. A little background. So my eyes have recently been opened to the intricacies of guitar, specifically an acoustic guitar, as I've been taking a Dreadnought guitar class at the Fab Lab at Northampton Community College, which I highly recommend to any of you do-it-yourselfers out there who are interested in learning something new and live in the nearby vicinity of the Lehigh Valley. So I've become very familiar with all of the components of an acoustic guitar because in the class you cut, shape, glue, sand, and assemble an amazing guitar with the help of the great teachers at the lab. So also I wanted to use this as a bit of a showcase of the type of work we can do at Tangency Designs. I won't get into that now, but check the comments section for more information about our company. And without further ado, let's get into the guitar. So I just wanted to start with a little bit of an overview of the outside. If you're familiar with a guitar, if you're not familiar with a guitar, this is what we got going on here. So this is a classic Dreadnought style guitar. Probably looks very familiar to a lot of you. So just talking about kind of the woods that you use when you make a guitar. So generally the top section here is going to be made out of like Sitka spruce. The sides on my guitar and some other guitars, rosewood. These are generally prettier woods, more exotic. So this is kind of modeled with a rosewood type style. The back is also rosewood. You can have mahogany on the sides or cocobolo or things like that that are really exotic and kind of expensive, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so kind of moving along. The neck. So on the guitar that I was building, we used a mahogany neck. And here, I don't know what the wood actually is. I just picked a design just to show. And so we have the fretboard, also rosewood here. That can often be ebony or something else, some harder, dense wood. You have the headstock cap, which is kind of just for decoration, just for show. And you got the nut. The frets are the metal pieces that allow you to change pitch of each string. And yeah, so that's a little bit on the outside. And let's kind of dig into the inside of the guitar, because that's really what I wanted to show everyone. Because in the class that I've taken, this has been a demystifying process on the inside of the guitar. I mean, I've played guitar for a few years and never really wanted to see what was inside a guitar because that's not really the purpose. It's there to make music and do that. So it's kind of an interesting look inside. So just taking a little half section here and just to show you a little bit about the inside. And I'll explode this and have some other views to show, so just stick with me for a little while. So inside the guitar you have braces. So these provide structural support for the top. And you have what's called the kerfing. I think this is a pretty standard woodworking thing. It's to allow more surface area to glue the top to the sides. And also, just a little information, most everything on a guitar is glued together. So I didn't know that when I started. Makes sense, but the only part that isn't glued is connecting the neck to the body. So that's generally done with 2 bolts. And I don't show them in this view, but you can imagine 2 bolts going through here. But it's also glued, which is to really strengthen that joint because it's the most critical to the entire guitar. So yeah, that's what we got. Let's take a look then at some of the frets as well. So you can see frets are pushed into the fretboard on a guitar. I'll show in the video when it's all exploded later how that all works. But there's no glue on the frets, they're just pressed in there. So this is called the nut. So the strings on a guitar run from the nut to the saddle. This is called the saddle down here. And they're suspended over the strings, and then you push down, or they're suspended over the fretboard, and then you push down on the strings at each fret, and that's what effectively shortens the string and changes the pitch. Okay, so let's go to get out of this exploded view, and I'll take off the top so you can kind of see. So the top. This is how it looks from the top view. So yeah, just taking a little look around here. You can see how the bracing fits into the kerfing. Generally the kerfing is notched out so that you can put it inside and make sure that you have a solid connection from the braces to the sides. You want these to glue so that everything is as sound and intact as possible. So take another kind of look around here. We can take off the back as well. Flip it over and I'll show you from the inside out just the bracing pattern on the inside of a guitar. So this was the kind of most interesting aspect for me, because when you look inside a guitar when you're playing it, you can kind of see the back and the various components and the bracing and things like that. But this is a part of a guitar you hardly ever see. Well, you would never see it unless your guitar was broken or something like that. So here you can see this is a classic bracing pattern from one of the more popular guitar making companies. This isn't exactly how theirs is, but it's for modeling's sake, it paints the picture. So these are all made out of spruce or some sort of light wood and glued in place. Yeah, so that's what we got here. This section here is called it's like a backing plate for the bridge and saddle. So because all of your strings are going to be connected here and all of the tension of the strings is going to be pulling on this section, it's good to reinforce this section of the guitar. This needs to be the strongest part of the top. And so you have an extra little piece here that is there for structural support. So next, let's go ahead and explode this thing, and I'll show some of the features that I find pretty interesting. So let's explode. So pretty neat, right? This is something that 3D modeling allows you to do that is so fascinating, where you can look inside of a model or a design and check out what all the individual pieces look like. This is something that at Tangency Designs we can offer this kind of support or this kind of product to you, where you could take a design if you have come up with an idea or want to train somebody on how something works or take a look at the inside. We can make these kinds of models for you that you can use and show. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for just a second and get back to the guitar. So, like I said, we got the bridge. This is the this is the bridge. This is the saddle. We've got the pins for locking in your strings. This is called the binding. I'll put this all back together and kind of explain the binding situation. This is called the rosette. So this gets glued in as a more decorative piece on the top of a guitar. And something while we're looking at the top of the guitar that I wanted to talk about, which was another kind of demystifying thing. So the top and the back of a guitar look pretty flat. You would think, I would have thought that they were completely flat when I first started this process, but actually they're curved. So the curvature you can just kind of barely see here. The curvature on the top of a guitar is, we're talking about a radius of 40 feet. The one shown here is a radius of 28 feet. So you can think of a huge circle and what that radius would look like in a small, let's call it 20-inch section. It's not very much, but it's not trivial. The curvature of the guitar is extremely important to the sound, to the reverberation, transferring the vibration throughout so that you can project the sound and the string vibration to your audience as you're playing. So yeah, you can take a look here. And this is the bracing pattern on the top. Another, how you can kind of see the curvature. There you can look down one of the X braces. This is called the X brace, one of the more important braces on the guitar. You can see the curvature there. Pretty neat. kind of walking our way down. So the sides of a guitar are steam or heat bent. They're not all one piece how you kind of see it here. Generally they're in two halves. So where this seam is here, you can imagine two halves of a guitar, or two halves of wood that are glued together and assembled. So it's pretty neat. But the grain pattern, you generally want two book matched pieces of wood. So that's when you take a piece of wood, you slice it down the side and then open it like a book. And then you have a left and a right hand version that are, the grain patterns are symmetrical. So it's something that's really kind of pleasing to the eye and interesting to look at. It makes a really beautiful guitar. Again, so this is the kerfing. So it's not modeled exactly how it is in real life. Generally you have lots of little slits here to allow it to bend and take that form. But it's kind of shown a little bit that way with the surfacing that I've put on here so that you can kind of see. But the notch is there, and it ends up not being perfectly flat either because of the curvature of the guitar. It starts out perfectly flat, but it's sanded so that it's not. We have our bottom braces, different than the top because they serve a different purpose. And then you have these extra pieces in here. So something in a guitar that I found interesting is a lot of times the grain pattern and the direction is critically important to how a guitar stays together. A lot of woodworkers may know this already, but you have these pieces here where the grain is sideways and it runs perpendicular to the grain of the back. So generally the back, just like the curved sides I talked about earlier, the back and the top are generally done in two book-matched pieces of wood as well. So there's a seam that runs along the middle, which you can kind of tell in the pattern I've picked here. But these pieces help to keep that that seam intact. Anyway, you can look up some interesting information on guitars, whether it be on Wikipedia or StuMac is a cool website for building guitars and various components and things like that. Take a look on there and if you're interested a little more. But here on the back where we have a 16-foot radius on our back, you can really see that curvature here that you don't normally see when you have a guitar. It's really quite interesting. And then the binding on the bottom as well. And the binding serves a purpose. It's more decorative, but it also is generally made out of plastic, and that will protect the corner or the outside edges of a guitar from various bangs. If you drop it or hit it into something, it's not going to permanently dent the wood if you didn't have that edge there. So last little piece is the neck. So the neck is a very critical part of the guitar. It's where when you're touching it, when you're playing it, this is what's making it happen and changing the pitch. And yeah, so these are the frets. So the frets are pieces of metal, and the way it's not exactly modeled how it is in real life. You have barbs on the side, so imagine like a prickly barb where it goes into the slot on the fretboard and doesn't want to come out. So these are not glued in place. This slot here and all of these slots are positioned to facilitate the change in pitch. This little gap is done with a table saw. It's a 23 thousandths wide slot, which matches the width of the feature on the fret that feeds into place. Yeah, so when that all goes together, let's collapse this here. So when that all goes together, you can kind of see how it looks. And we'll go back to the side view just to re-emphasize how this all goes together now that you've seen the pieces individually. So here you can kind of see the binding, how it is notched into the top, and it protects the edge. So you have the braces that kind of notch into the kerfing, and everything here is glued in place, as I said before. Yeah, the only thing that I don't have really modeled here is the hardware. So also inside a guitar is what's called the truss rod. So if any of you are aware of how to set up a guitar or adjust it to make sure that the action is proper or the alignment is right, inside this gap here you have a metal rod that is able to be curved up or curved down to facilitate kind of bending the neck or helping the neck offset the tension of the strings. Take a look up the truss rod on a guitar on Wikipedia. You could probably find something really a little more informative than what I'm saying. So yeah, and then let's just do a no top and show how the neck is connected. So the last little piece of this puzzle. So with a guitar, you have the mortise and the tenon. That's a pretty common woodworking term. So this is done with a jig and a router bit. So inside here gets hogged out with a router, and it mates correspondingly with the neck. So these will connect together and form the strong joint to make sure that your guitar doesn't fold up on itself when the string tension is there. Yeah. Pretty neat stuff. So let's put this back together. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. But yeah, so that's the acoustic guitar. And I just wanted to share with you what I've learned. And I'll probably do some more videos about this in the future because I find it so interesting. It's something I have really enjoyed the class at the Fab Lab. Like I said, I recommend it to anybody out there that is interested in learning something new. And they really are doing something there that is pretty exceptional. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can find my email address in the comment section of the video. I'm going to be posting more videos to show the kind of work that we do at Tangency Designs, and just to have for your viewing pleasure for those out there that like to figure out how things work, what's going on inside them, and send me some comments or suggestions of things that you might think would be interesting to model, or something that you want to know what's going on inside it, and maybe I can help shed some light on that process to you. Or if you make something, or you're trying to teach someone how to do something and this would be a good way to show them, that's something I can help with as well. So I appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Feel free to follow my page, my channel, and have a great afternoon or evening or morning, whatever it is. Thanks for watching.